It's winter here at Polyface Farm, and so we've taken an opportunity to look at the whole carbonaceous diaper winter housing. So the first question is, well, why winter housing? I thought we were in the free range business. I thought we were in the pastured business, and there's a tension within certainly the pastured livestock movement as to how much housing is available. And this, of course, is depending on climate, where you live. If you live in South Georgia, Florida might be a different situation. But in much of the world, and certainly where we are here in Virginia, where we get 24 inches of snow a year, we often get single-digit Fahrenheit, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0 Fahrenheit degrees. We can usually ice skate on the pond for a week in the winter. Those kinds of cold, inclement weather situations create an opportunity for winter housing, or I should say almost an imperative for winter housing for a number of reasons. Generally, when we think of housing livestock, because it has this resonance with factory farming, we're going to move them inside, and we associate that with odors and smells and sickness and all those kinds of things. I think it's important to just step back a minute and realize how to house animals in a hygienic, sanitary, inviting way, without all the negatives associated with your typical kind of factory housing situation. So with that in mind, let's look at why we would winter house here in our farm. The first one is comfort for the animals. The insulative capacity of, for example, a cow. Now the reason that's important not only for health, but also for the amount of caloric intake. Here in the winter, we're feeding them stored feedstuffs, whether it's, grains for the omnivores or stored hay for the cows. And so if we can keep their outer jacket dry and insulative capacity up, then they don't have to ingest as much calories to maintain body temperature. I mean, we're not running heaters and stoves for them to stay warm. Secondly, comfort for personnel. Just to make a pleasant place for us to work in. Who wants to be in that extremely cold situation, blizzard, rain? There are few things as enjoyable as going out in a blizzard. It's just snowing like crazy, and you walk out in the hay shed in the barn with the cows, and they're just lounging on this clean bedding. They're just content, dry, chewing their cud. The snow is falling. There are few things as enjoyable as that from a personnel standpoint, to be able to go out and enjoy that kind of work environment, with the animals where it's nice and comfortable. Next is functional water. Water lines can freeze, water troughs can freeze. And so in a housing situation, we can actually bury water lines. We can use, all temperature hydrants and valves, and we can have functional water delivered to the animals. We're not chipping ice on the pond. We're not trying to find an open spot in the creek. We're not trying to keep a trough open on the backside of the hill, when it's, -3 degrees. The next is to protect soil from pugging. Now, this is, of course, late winter or during a thaw. Whenever your saturated soils, of course, normally in the winter, the soil is fairly wet, and so it's soft, and then it freezes hard, and then when it thaws, that agronomic, physical freezing and thawing actually creates a more fragile soil base. And when you put animals on that, even chickens, what wouldn't create pugging or damage in the summertime, even after a thunder shower, because the soil is more vibrant, it's alive, and roots are alive, plants are alive, and it's a totally different system. In the winter, with everything hibernating and sleeping, even chickens, they'll gradually cap over and do a lot of soil damage. Cows especially will do a lot of soil damage. We call this pugging. We've actually had fields that come into spring and they look like you tilled them. They can tromp it into slurry, literally slurry in the wintertime. And what that does is destroy the tilth of the soil. It completely eliminates its ability. It can actually kill the sod temporarily. And then you might have 3-4 years until things actually straighten out. And so to protect the soil from pugging, we put the animals inside in the wintertime as part of a soil protective strategy. The next reason is to leverage nutrients. You know, one of the big issues here is what happens to those winter dormant season nutrients when the rain hits them during this freeze-thaw period. There's a lot of movement going on in the soil, but the movement is without the biological activity that would otherwise metabolize those nutrients that are falling on it. And so, in general, we want to take those winter nutrients and put them in a place where we can store them. Putting those animals in a place where we can actually leverage those nutrients, those winter nutrients, is all a part of preparing for summer. A lot of times, you know, we think, well, farmers just kind of take off in the wintertime. Winter's kind of a dormant season. But for us here, winter is our launch pad for summer's fertility. And then the final reason for winter housing is simply to reduce the pollution from all this waste. Obviously, in a typical situation, let's say, you know, where a cow herd is outside for the winter, all winter, it's very difficult to keep any runoff, any nutrients from running off and eliminating the pollution from those areas. And so, again, because the soil is sleeping and it can't metabolize those nutrients. So that's part of leveraging nutrients, but you know, the problem is that if you're not leveraging the nutrients, then you're probably losing the nutrients, and you're losing them either into an aquifer, into a stream, into some sort of a water source. And so these are really practical reasons to have a winter housing option.